In this section, we consider a major tool in the nonverbal toolbox of public figures, that of smiles. Cross-culturally, smiles play an important role in how our leaders communicate, especially in representative democracies where force is not used to intimidate and control. Instead, by focusing on prestige and trustworthiness, in these political systems, leaders use affiliative broaden and build and tend and befriend strategies. Thus, understanding how different smiles are used and what they communicate about the behavioral intent of political figures allows us to better understand politics in the mediated world where representative government matters. The analysis of smiles that follows has been seeded and informed by the Dartmouth Group work in the early 1980s and 1990s, especially as they attempted to understand the allure of the happy warrior president, Ronald Reagan. The current understanding presented in this segment relies upon how individuals engage in micro-momentary processing of stimuli. In other words, we use the componential processing model of emotional appraisal to best understand different smiles. Regardless of what they are called, all smiles are social tools. Even if we smile when we are alone, we often have an audience in mind. And because all social interactions are at their heart political interactions, even if we are not immediately weighing the power dynamics, smiles are an important part of politics. As a result, all smiles are political tools because they are a means by which followers choose their leaders and then follow their lead, with different types of smiles connected with different types of political behavior. This slide provides a framework for analyzing smiles by political figures and is based upon my analysis of the 2012 Republican Party presidential candidates, both in terms of coding their smiles and how viewers responded to them. One major team of scientists led by Paula Niedenthal that studies smiles has as their home base the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Their experimental and field work largely overlaps with my own ethological and experimental analysis of politicians and leaders. Their team sees three different smiles as occurring: reward, affiliative, and dominant smiles. These types of smiles largely overlap with the amusement and enjoyment, posed, and contempt smiles my research sees in the field with political figures. The first type of smile, what Niedenthal and colleagues call the reward smile, involves more than just the AU-12, in which the lip corners are pulled up and at an angle. It involves movements of the upper face with a brow raiser, the frontalis muscle that is noted as AUs 1 and 2 in the facial action coding system. My research suggests this rarely occurs with politicians, although this eyebrow flash is seen across cultures as a welcoming display. Instead, I tend to see contraction of the orbicularis oculi, the muscles around the eyes that are referred to as AU6 and AU7, along with the lip corners being pulled up and at an angle and the jaw dropping to show the teeth. As we saw earlier, this smile is known as an amusement smile, or more classically as a Duchenne smile, and is associated with playfulness, joy, and enjoyment, whether it is the general public or politicians. In the video clips that follow, political leaders from the United Kingdom react to audiences during speeches regarding Brexit, the decision in which the United Kingdom acted to leave the European Union. Boris Johnson, the leader of the Conservative Party and now Prime Minister of Great Britain, is an ex-mayor of London and now serves as Minister of Parliament for Uxbridge and South Ruislip in London. In addition to his campaign to leave the European Union, Johnson is known for his humor and his hair. The opposition parties who wish to stay in the European Union were the Labour Party, led by Jeremy Corbyn, and the Liberal Democrats, who were led by Joe Swinson of Glasgow, Scotland. Corbyn lost his leadership position, but kept his parliament seat in North Islington, a suburb of London. For her part, Swinson lost her seat and, as a result of this, her leadership position during the late 2019 parliamentary election.
Super Super Joe Swenson. Thank you. Right, Joe.
Affiliative smiles, also known as posed smiles, are displayed to create and maintain social bonds, to the point where they may be seen as signaling appeasement. These smiles are social lubricants as they help us in our interactions with peers and assist us as we develop friendships, thus broadening and building our social networks. These smiles are marked by the zygomaticus muscle, or the AU12, pulling the lip corners upwards and at an angle, but none of the other markers for the reward smile in the upper face. With these clips, we see Boris Johnson, often referred to as Bojo, Jeremy Corbyn, and Joe Swinson displaying affiliative smiles as they talked with their constituencies as they were covered by the British newspapers.
Because you can't get an election. This sounds like election promises and an election tour, and you can't get an election and you can't get Brexit done at the moment. How are you going to achieve that?
All hands up as high as you can, please. Yes, there's a gentleman on the far right of the hall, my left, with his hand up in a blue shirt just over there.
The dominance or contempt smile is one that has markers of the typical smile but is mixed with indicators of disgust and anger. The muscles involved with the smiles include the levator labii muscles alongside the nose, referred to as the AU9 and the AU10 in the FACS coding scheme, which causes the nose to wrinkle with the AU9 and with the action unit 10 elevates the upper lip. Or, as in the case of contempt, there's a one-sided smile with a tightening of the lip corner with a unilateral AU14 or lip tightening on the side with the raised zygomatic muscle. In my analysis, I tend to refer to this rather rare smile as a contempt smile when I do see it in politicians. However, it is not so rare to not be seen on a regular basis. In this video clip from Donald Trump's Republican Party presidential nomination speech in 2016, we see him first pose a dominant smile before showing other types of smile. Note that throughout the process there are multiple subtle movements in his face, with his first smile showing a unilateral pull upwards and at an angle with the zygomaticus muscle, in other words connected with contempt, as a subspecies of the dominant smile.
Thank you. Thank you.
In conclusion, we know that facial displays contain more information than just basic emotions. Even smiles are multifaceted and communicate a broad range of behavioral intent. Indeed, smiles might be seen as the Swiss Army knife of facial displays because of all the different forms of information it communicates. Going beyond the simplified models of the basic emotion theory is definitely called for, especially as the face has 27 action units coding 42 individual muscles, with each of these muscles and action units playing a role in signaling to others behavioral intent. The resulting display behavior by the face works by affecting others around them. Even though the facial displays are subtle, people react unconsciously to others in their presence. Accounting for the muscles used, how strongly they are contracted, and the timing of their occurrence helps us make sense of others and their behavioral intent.